Hey everybody, and welcome to our leadership video series. We're so excited that you're taking a couple minutes out of your day to really focus on and grow your individual leadership. Our intention is always to give you content that will help you in your faith journey and your formation, especially if you are serving in the local church in whatever capacity that might be, but also to try to give you content that will help you in the rest of your life, whether that's the life of a busy parent or whether that's the life of someone who's just trying to organize their retirement, or for those of you who are still real in the thick of their career, that this would be applicable for you too. Now, if you're like me, the seasons of our life, the seasons of our year, oftentimes look a little bit different. They may speed up for a while or slow down for a while. While we're filming this and taping it, it's actually November of 2023. And this fall has been insane for me. So as I was rounding out summer, my schedule just started ticking up. So in August, I had a big sailing race that I do every year. I like to shorthand sail on long distances. And so they're long. They take me out of the office usually for 2 or 3 days. And then at the end of August, to celebrate my wife and I's 30th anniversary, we went away to Italy for a week. Well, right on the heels of our Italy trip, my wife and I flew down for a missions trip and some leadership development in South Africa. So we were down there for about 10 days. And then I did a long 3-day trip where I did a fundraiser to help raise funds and awareness for Children's Hospital up in Milwaukee. And then right on the heels of that, I took our elder team up to Door County for our annual retreat. In October, I had a pastor's conference. I had my oldest daughter Taylor's wedding, and then I took a trip to Ecuador for about 10 days as well. And then in November, the first week of November, I've been in Florida for a week, meeting up with some other ARC pastors for a time of brainstorming and encouragement and all kinds of things. So you can imagine during that amount of time trying to keep up with all my normal responsibilities. Just to give you an idea, in amongst all of that, I also had to speak 19 times. So chances are your schedule is like my schedule, and chances are your team is very much like my team. And over the last couple weeks, I've had 3 different team members come to me just feeling completely overwhelmed with a list of things that they were doing, just frazzled, feeling like there was no way they were going to get on top of all of their to-dos. There was no way they were going to be able to hit all of the different deadlines that they needed to hit. And for us, a lot of times those deadlines, it's a service, it's an event, it's an activity. So there's not really there's no grace period. And I'm sure for you, oftentimes you're the exact same way. You've got dates, you've got times where you've just absolutely got to hit things. And so today I thought I would look at a piece of scripture that's in Matthew where Jesus is speaking. And the principle that he's talking about is something that's very particular and local, meaning that he's speaking to a very defined group of people in a very defined set of circumstances that is locked historically. But there is a larger, broader leadership principle that we sort of draw out of that, and that's really what I want to do today. So in Matthew chapter 6, in verse 34, Jesus says this. He says, "Don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today has troubles enough for today." In another place in Matthew 6:31, just a couple verses before, he says, "Don't worry about these things. What do we eat? What do we drink? What do we wear?" And that was sort of more the context. He was saying, listen, I don't want you to struggle and strive in terms of your life after these basic necessities, because God sees the grass, He sees the birds, He sees everything, and He is constantly on the move on their behalf, taking care of everything that they need. And then He jumps into this principle that basically says, and besides, I don't want you always with your mind out in the future, thinking off about things that are going to be difficult, because honestly, today's always got enough worries of its own. And so I want to talk about that principle about thinking of things in their time, thinking about things in their time. We have this sort of base confidence to what Jesus was speaking to, that God is always working on our behalf, that God is always good, and that He knows what we need. But then He also says to us, and listen, I don't want you getting stressed about the things that are out in the future, because you've got enough things that you need to be, that you should be, that you could be thinking about right now, and it'll actually help you get more accomplished, and it'll give you more peace about those to-do lists. So just a couple things that I want to share with you from my own experience and the ways I have worked to develop our team here at The Well. So I found out years ago, for me personally, that I could do a lot. I could work a long time. I could put my head down and work really, really hard, as long as I knew there was a light at the end of a tunnel. So right now, this is a really intense season in any church. It's the end of the year, so you're thinking about budgets and bonuses and end of the year statements. It's in terms of our services, we've got Advent and Christmas Eve services. You've got all kinds of holidays that push in on scheduling for your staff and for your volunteers, and all of these different things that you're trying to navigate and juggle. And in the midst of all of that, sometimes we just have to work really, really hard, put in a couple extra hours each week, or sometimes putting in a lot of extra hours in a particular week. And one of the reasons that we're able to do that over and over and over at The Well is we know that the week following Christmas, things really slow down and open up. In fact, one of the things we do annually is we do what's called No Service Sunday. So the Sunday following Christmas Eve, we give all of our volunteers the week off, and we really encourage them to be home, spend time with their family, and we do our entire service virtually. We do it all online so that they can have church with their family while they eat waffles and just kind of hang out and enjoy the holiday break. So we're able to work extra hard the end of November, the first part of December, because we know we have a little bit of a break coming up. Well, that same principle applies in every area of our life. So if I know that I've got a vacation coming up, sometimes I'll use the time leading up to a vacation to try to get a couple of extra things done. Now, maybe you're thinking, Jerry, that's crazy. I'm trying to do everything I can just to get the stuff done that has to be done before I go. And maybe that's all that you can do. But sometimes we can also use lean seasons as a way of thinking ahead to make sure that we're getting things done. Not only that, but also giving things a place, a time to live on your schedule. So for me, for instance, I know my mornings are all about my quiet time. And then because the mornings are the best time for me, I use mornings for my creative, as my creative space, where I'm going to do my creative things. It's where a lot of my sermon generation comes. It's where a lot of our sermon series are built out, because I know that's where I'm the most fresh. Now, when I walk in every morning, I have a pile of mail and emails and calls and texts just like you. But I don't touch them until either right before lunch or right after lunch. And so I don't even have to think about them as I'm sitting there working and trying to be creative, and I'm getting these little pop-ups that something is flying in, and for someone else it may feel urgent, but I know I don't have to worry about it, because when I hit that breaking point, if I've got a few minutes before lunch, I'm going to knock some of that out, and if I don't, as soon as I get back from lunch, I'm going to knock it out. So knowing that that stuff has a place, that it lives in my daily schedule, where right before or after lunch, I'm going to clear all my inboxes, and right before I go home, I'm going to clear all my inboxes. And that means while I'm really focusing on work, I'm not getting distracted. And it also means when I'm home with my family, I'm not getting distracted. Now, not only can you have that sort of in your daily schedule, you can have that in your weekly schedule. So for me, I have a regular weekly rhythm. Monday is my day off. I spend my morning with my mom. I spend my afternoon with my grandkids. On Tuesdays, that's my staff and elder day. It starts really early in the morning. 6 o'clock, I meet with our elders. And then I've got a little bit of time in the morning where I can do project stuff, catch up on everything, all the emails, text calls I didn't do over the weekend. And then I spend all afternoon meeting with my staff individually and as a group, and then go home usually around 7 or so. It's a big day. And then Wednesday when I come in, that's sermon prep day for me. So I know I'm going to spend that day being creative, working on a series, working on a message, working on a leadership lesson, something like this. Thursday morning is my day to make up anything that I wasn't able to finish on Wednesday. Thursday afternoon is projects. Friday I set aside for people. So when someone calls me and says, hey, can I meet with you? I just put it on my calendar somewhere for Friday, and then I don't think about it again until it's time to think about it. Or if I know I've got some project I've got to do that someone comes in and hits me with on Sunday and it feels urgent for them, I know I'm going to get that done, but it's going to be Thursday afternoon. And so you can have places in your weekly schedule where you know things live. And you can also do that on a regular basis with your to-do schedule. So that's what I did with all three of my leaders who came to me. I said, do me a favor, write down everything right now that you're stressed about doing and give me the things that have deadlines. And when they brought it to me, I just helped them give everything a date and time. Okay, you're going to work on these 2 things Tuesday morning. You're going to work on these 3 things Tuesday afternoon. This is going to, don't worry about this at all. This is Wednesday's work. This is Thursday's work. This is Friday's work. And you know what, to a person, every one of them, when they stopped worrying about everything and they started attacking those few things in the right place, 2 things immediately happened. 1, they began to just destroy their to-do list. But number 2, they immediately felt less stressed. And every one of them that first day were able to knock out everything in their to-do list for that day, which made them feel amazingly accomplished. But they also got at least one thing ticked off later in the week, which meant they already knew they were creating breathing room for themselves later down the week. So it's just another way where you learn to give something a place where it lives, a day where it lives, a time where it lives, a rhythm where it lives. And by doing that, you don't have to stress and stay stressed all the time. And when you do, you'll find that you work more effectively, more efficiently, and more creatively. For a lot of us, that's a really, really big deal, is to be able to think creatively, to be able to problem solve creatively. And when you're just drowning under a mountain of stress and to do, sometimes that can be really hard. And remember, think about those places in your regular schedule where you've got a break, where you've got a breather. Maybe it's the weekend, maybe it's a day off, maybe it's a vacation coming up or a holiday, and really lean into that when you just have to sort of lean in and dig deep and get something done. Well, thanks so much for letting me just share a basic spiritual, biblical, and leadership principle, which is don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about this afternoon. Don't worry about what is later down the road, because down the road is when we're going to think about that. It's when we're going to worry about that. We're going to know exactly what we need to be working on right now. We're going to knock it out, and we're going to be amazed at the things that God does in us and through us as we learn to live by His leadership principles. Thanks so much for giving us just a minute. If you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to me, jerry@cometothewell.org. You can also call the office at 630-262-1083. And as always, keep leaning into God and growing and developing in His kingdom and in your leadership. God bless.